Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
$11:02 on a Wednesday. What's going on, everybody? Dustin Nielsen with you here on The Lock Shop. If you're listening live on TuneIn at EdmontonSportsTalk.com, you can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Hustle be sliding in here right away. We'll get to some line movement in the National Football League. The line is moved in that Rams game. The line is moved in the Browns game as well. So we'll get into that. Probably got some time today to dive into some NFL futures for the playoffs as well. Light night in the NHL. Definitely talk about the Raptors, who got hosed late by officiating against the Lakers last night. They got to go at it against the Clippers tonight. We can probably get into that a little bit as well. Huss, the red hot Winnipeg Jets, get the job done again and cash a WST parlay from what I hear.
Yeah, that was that was a fun night last night. Workman-like 5-0 win. It's amazing. I mean, the team's number one in the league in goals against, and it got better last night. Shutout by Hellebuck, which was nice. He had only had one shutout up until this point this year, and he had one notably that was ruined by the wave. I absolutely maintain,
Unbelievable.
Normally, listen, 5-goal lead in the last 5 minutes. I mean, that's go zone time for you waivers out there. I mean, you can't blow the game. But with the shutout, I think the goalie, particularly our world-class goalie, deserves a little bit better. So tried to start it a little bit last night. Didn't really get going. Thankfully, Helly got the shutout. And Gabriel Velarde popped one in the third period. Dude, can we talk for a minute about this? The Jets' opponents' team total under stretch that we're on right now.
Oh, this is unreal.
So the Jets have allowed 3 or less for 30 straight games. They're 5 games away from the NHL record, well, the modern NHL record, basically, since expansion. But what not enough people are paying attention to, or frankly, I think is that the Jets. So you remember that crazy game against the Oilers at the end of November, where it was 1-0 with like 5 minutes left, and then Nurse scored on that kind of knuckler that went in, and then the game went sideways on the Jets. Goal, empty netter. Jets lost 3-1. That was November 30th. That's the last time Winnipeg has given up more than 2 goals in regulation. 2, not 3, 2. One team has scored 3 goals on the Winnipeg Jets since November 30th. It was the Habs, and the third goal was a power play goal in overtime. So I would talk
best bet in the National Hockey League, buddy. Team total under 2.5. I mean, doesn't miss.
Even last night against Columbus, it was minus 147. I mean, as I said, we stuck it in on a couple of our bets last night, and the one that did come through was Winnipeg. It's like, I don't really even know what to say about it anymore, other than, we've got Chicago in here tomorrow. That's going to be the 41st game of the season. And when we're doing our show on Friday here, that is going to be the official halfway point of the season. I feel so good for Rick Bowness, too. I think Bones is going to be going to the All-Star game, and he'll be not the coaching, and not that there's any coaching whatsoever in the All-Star game. But, for a guy that's had such a great career, it'll be a very cool honor for him to go there and be a part of it. So that's happening. But they say defense wins championships. And if that's the case, the Jets are very much a championship caliber team right now. And I did see our buddies Dom and the gang at The Athletic run through the simulations 10,000 times.
Okay.
And the Winnipeg Jets are favored to win the President's Trophy and are number one in every category of like make playoffs, make next round, make conference final.
So this is 100% legit is what you're saying right now.
Well, listen, I understand if people haven't been paying attention to Winnipeg and have just remembered what's happened in previous seasons. I mean, last season, most notably, I mean, a really nice start under Bones. And around this time, I mean, and they didn't just go into a slump. They played like, well, they played brutal for 6 to 8 weeks. And they almost had the biggest choke in NHL history, to put it in layman's terms, for a team that was in first place in the conference in the new year that almost missed the playoffs. But you know what, man? I mean, we've been doing this long enough. You realize that teams learn lessons the hard way.
Yep.
And I think there's a lot of learning that's happened amongst the majority of guys in that team. And again, Chevy's done such an unbelievable job of supplementing a pretty talented roster with guys that know what it takes, that are fully bought in. And, you know, there was a narrative around like, oh, this is just the same team. Well, it's not really just the same team. I mean, you've got Velarde, you've got Iafallo, you've got Niederreiter, you've got Vlad Nemetsnikov, all who have been huge parts of this team that were not Winnipeg Jets the day before the trade deadline last season. But the way the team plays night in and night out, it's as consistent a team as I've ever seen. I mean, there's no difference in what they do night in and night out. And that level of professionalism, I think, is probably the best word to say, has made it, has been the catalyst and really the foundation. Their 5-on-5 plays the foundation. What's this team going to be like when their power play gets going and their penalty kill gets a little bit better? I mean, they're going to be a problem right now. And I have to give a shout out to Jay Fresh, who I'm sure you've seen.
Jay Fresh, they do the charts and stuff, right?
They do the charts.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if you remember me mentioning this at the start of the year. But again, we're going into the season, and there was so much noise around the Jets. Who's gone their way out? What's happening with Scheifele? What's happening with Hellebuck? Well, both of those guys signed dual contracts on the same day on Thanksgiving. And I can't remember whether this was before that day or after that day, to be honest. But Jay Fresh put out a tweet with all of his season tabulations, and it kept on spitting out the Winnipeg Jets as winning the President's Trophy. And he just put out, he goes, I don't know what to say. My model's broken. So we're sitting there thinking, and I could not help but go over to CoolBet and look and see what those numbers were for the Winnipeg Jets. I'm like, well, if the models keep on spitting it out, and let's not forget, he did have Boston running away with it last year, and that's exactly what happened. If the Jets do this, he will be the greatest predictor ever, like going back to back in a team
that'll just be locked in. Yeah.
But yes, you were talking to a proud holder of a Jets 50-1 President's Trophy ticket.
Ooh, baby.
And a 60-1 cup ticket. And the 60-1 is now 14-1. And I think you could argue, I mean, like, it's really interesting looking at the futures over at CoolBet right now, and I'll just pull them up while we've got them here. The Avalanche, I believe, are the favorites, along with Vegas at 10-1. But you can just see how it's anybody's race. Like last year, Boston at one point was plus 550. You had a couple teams in short numbers.
There was about 2 or 3 teams inside 10-1 for most of the season last year.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So.
There's no consensus right now. Colorado and Vegas are 10-1. The Rangers, Bruins, and Hurricanes are 11-1. The Oilers and Stars are 12-1. And the Panthers and Jets are 14-1. And I would argue, based on everything we've seen so far this year, what some of these other models are spitting out, that if you were looking at the teams right now and you wanted to place a cup bet, the Jets are probably the best value on the board. It seems like people still either are slow to realize what's happened here in Winnipeg or expecting the bottom to fall out at some point. But it's pretty hard to imagine that happening with the way that they're going every night. And as I said, getting back to the foundation of what they do, they beat teams up at 5-on-5. They live in other teams' end. Their team defense is as good as any team in the National Hockey League. And then you add in the fact that they arguably have the best goaltender in the world and a backup in Laurent Brossoit, who's been as good as Hellebuck's been when he started over the course of the last 2 weeks. It's It's pretty exciting. It's pretty exciting. And as I say, I think there's some good opportunities right now. My pal Andy McNeil did a piece yesterday I believe he writes for Canada Sports Betting. And he was just putting out, like, up until this point, the most profitable teams in the league and the teams that had been the least profitable. You know, if you were just betting them at their number each and every night. Jets number 2 in the league as far as who's made bettors the most money. So if people have been riding,
who was number 1?
They've been pretty happy. Who was number 1? I think
was it the Canucks?
It was a team that. You know what? I think it was the Canucks, actually.
I'm just trying to think of teams that people might not have come around yet that just keep delivering. And the Canucks, who, by the way, are 15-1, just behind the Jets at 14-1, and are battling with them right now for first place in the National Hockey League.
Hey, and speaking of the Canucks, let me just quickly say,
what a game.
Like many people have sort of been waiting for them to fall off. And again, I didn't see any of their game last night, but they look like the Globetrotters at times against the Rangers, and then came right back on the second in a back-to-back into New York and did it again. Yeah, here's a list right now. This is courtesy of Andy McNeil. You can give him a follow at Digital Gambler. So the Canucks are the number 1 team, and I'm not sure how this does it. It does it in, I guess, if you were betting. Oh, okay. He used $1. If you were betting $1 every night on the team,
money line,
away, the Canucks have won $2.92, and at home $6.11. Their total money won is 9.02. So that's wild. I mean, 9 times your bets if you're betting 9 each time. And the Winnipeg Jets are just behind them at 8.25. They've been a better team on the road as far as winning 5.60. And 2.64 at home. Then there's a drop off. I'm actually sort of surprised at this as St. Louis. St. Louis is the number 2 team, and it's all been at home. They're actually losing money on the road. They're plus 7.25 at home. The Capitals, then the Rangers, the Predators, Flyers, Panthers, Habs, one of the other profitable teams. Arizona, Colorado slightly, Detroit slightly, and Boston slightly. Then you look at Edmonton. We're looking at now on the minus sides. Edmonton's minus 121. So they're close to getting into profitability. Vegas, Dallas, Pittsburgh, all around that. The teams that have been killing people this year, well, if you've been betting the Sharks every night, it hasn't gone well.
That's on you.
But the Ottawa Senators, the Minnesota Wild, or the Mild, as we like to call them here in Winnipeg, the Flames, the Kraken, Blue Jackets. But here's a couple teams I don't think we expected to see towards the bottom. Tampa Bay and Carolina are there. And then New Jersey right there as well. So, I mean, listen, those are trends that have taken place. That's actually not as much a trend. Those are just straight up results from the first half of the season, thereabouts. But yeah, Canuck fans and Jet fans, if they've been riding their team, they're in a pretty good spot right now. But yes, I'm looking more of those futures. And you know how a good future is every time you go into your open books, Coolbet's giving you a better payout.
Will you cash out with this number?
Definitely not. Definitely not. Those will be ridden right until the end. Very rarely will you see me hedge on something like that. I guess, once you get to the point, if you get to the playoffs, you could always, if the team's a favorite, you could always bet the other side of it, just to give you essentially make your money back and make a little bit, to hedge that way. I did that with the Texans bet. I don't know if you saw that tweet that I put out on Sunday, but when the Jags went down, what was it, 17-7, I think maybe in the game, or
it was right around there.
14.
It was 17-10, I think.
Okay. Anyways, they were down by 8, I think. It was 21-13. And Jacksonville was plus 208 to the money line. And we were sitting there with these plus 280 Texans tickets. I I kind of said, hey, you know what? If you're thinking about covering your ass just in case Jacksonville does come back, this is a great time to get in. Cover your bet with a much smaller bet and give yourself the chance to win. Obviously, they didn't end up winning the game, but I felt a lot better about seeing the Jags in there on 4th and goal with the opportunity to tie it up in the 4th quarter, knowing that we covered everything and had a profit guaranteed the other way. But Houston, listen, well, we'll get into Houston and Cleveland.
Yeah, we'll get into we'll get to the NFL in just a second. I mean, just as quickly, there's just 3 games on the NHL slate tonight, so we can quickly dive into those. You said Chicago's. Yeah, go ahead.
Just speaking of Chicago, just before we go, what went down with that?
Well, that's what I was going to say. You said Chicago's rolling in next to Winnipeg. Is that what's they play tomorrow?
Tomorrow night.
Okay, in Winnipeg.
Rockford Ice Hogs.
Well, yeah, that's when we made the Ice Hog jokes yesterday too. They held the Edmonton Oilers to 15 shots on goal. 15 shots on goal, their lowest total in years. They finished with 15 shots on goal, win the game 2-1. It was a puck line killer because the puck line was set at -2.5, and the Oilers had 2 goals that were disallowed last night. So that would have been the 4-1 that we needed to cover the 2.5 on the puck line. The one was on an offside call that they took about 12 minutes to bloody review and then overturned, even though there was really nothing there that said they should have overturned it. And the other one was on a goaltender interference call that was called back that I'm surprised Edmonton didn't end up challenging because I didn't think there was much there on it either. But the Oilers, I mean, they played like hot garbage last night. They still beat them because the Hawks are bloody awful. Stuart Skinner made a couple of good saves along the way, but they were outshot 26-15 by the Chicago Blackhawks or whatever you have there from the Chicago Blackhawks right now. It was a classic go through the motions because we're probably going to win this game anyway, but that was a killer for us here in Edmonton who were like, and now I'm going to ride them all the way into that under 2.5 team total against the Winnipeg Jets. That Chicago Blackhawks team is not scoring 3 or 4 goals on the Winnipeg Jets. It's just, it's impossible. Like, Connor Bedard's not going to the All-Star game. Who are they going to send?
Okay, that was what I wanted to bring up with you. Can we, I don't know when they're going to announce this, but let's do a little brainstorming here in the lock shop. Lines for which Blackhawk will be an All-Star.
Well, so Kurashev's got to be like -160 because they don't have anybody else.
Well, okay, so Kurashev now, Taylor Radish, Jason Dickinson. What about Mackenzie Entwistle? Does that scream All-Star to you?
No.
Boris Kachuk, Ryan Donato, Connor Murphy on their blue line. Potentially. I guess you're right. It probably will be Kurashev, I guess. Maybe they send Korchinski as a fellow rookie to replace rookie Connor Bedard. So people will have something to talk about.
Some reason to be excited. Yeah.
Because wasn't 14 of the first 15 guys that were named?
Yeah, maybe they do something on the blue line there. I don't know. It's
a rookie third pairing defenseman would be hilarious. Listen, I think the NHL needs to do the right thing. If you recall last year, Seattle, I can't remember who was their original guy that was supposed to go, but something happened at the end, and they did not bring a Kraken player to the All-Star game. I'm not sure whether that was just that no one wanted to go, everyone was too late, everyone had their own plans, or what.
Yeah.
But this really does show, I mean, we don't need every single team to be represented at this All-Star game. I get the sentiment of it, and maybe that made sense when it was a bigger roster and they were playing a regular game at 5-on-5. But when we're talking about the All-Star game, and I mean, I feel like an idiot even spending this much time on it because no one really cares about the All-Star game, to be honest. But if you want to make it good, especially considering it's 3-on-3. I mean, why don't you bring a Nikolai Ehlers or a Mark Scheifele or one of the Oilers that won't be there?
Zach Hyman. Zach Hyman's got 25 goals. He's 5th in the league in goals. Not going to be at the All-Star game.
I saw a great take by your boy Stoff. Best free agent signing in Oilers history. Are you buying or selling that?
I think I'm buying it because they've mostly had shitty ones. So
was going to say better than Jack
Zach Hyman has been the perfect player for the Edmonton Oilers. And even with what we said this yesterday on our show, or on Two Guys and a Goalie maybe, even what Hyman gave you in the first season was more than enough for what you're paying him. And then he got better last year, and right now he's on pace to score something like 58 goals. And he had one last night called back and then missed an empty netter. So he should have had a couple more last night. Like, he's been on an absolute tear. He is the perfect winger for Connor McDavid. Perfect winger. So he's been a sweetheart. But yeah, he's not going to be at the All-Star. I mean, Draisaitl's going to be voted, and Hyman's not going to go. And you're going to have somebody from Chicago that probably anybody outside of, let's say, the division from a fan base perspective have no idea who this person is.
I'll be honest. I feel sorry for whoever gets picked from Chicago. Like, what's that experience going to be like?
Well, I mean, it could be pretty cool for Kurashev, like, to be around those guys, but from a fan perspective,
it's going to be John Scott.
Yeah,
it's going to be John Scott part 2. An absolute joke. Like, you know, do you even want to go out there? Do you want to take shifts? Do you want to be?
Well, I mean, Kurashev is highly more talented than John Scott, though. Right, this would be the equivalent of voting in Ryan Reeves right now. You know, that's different. That's different.
All right, maybe Kurashev deserves a little bit more credit than I'm giving him. But
I'm pretty sure Kurashev has more points this year than John Scott had in 3 or 4 seasons combined. Anyway, the National Hockey League tonight, 3 games. Flyers home against the Habs, -175. How about those damn Ducks yesterday? Hey, just thinking Flyers Ducks from that trade. I don't know what they were up 4-0 midway through the second in Nashville. I did not see that coming. That was wild.
No, and again, you know, we were at the game last night, and kind of, you know, we were in some seats that we're not normally in last night, and the out of town scoreboard was just to the right, like we were in the end, so we were staring at the score at the main scoreboard, but just on the power bar was the thing. So I kind of got a chance to pay attention to it a lot more. And I'm like, 1-0. And I'm like, shit, we need them in regulation. You don't like the other team scoring first. And I looked later on and saw it was 4-0. And I'm like, you have got to be kidding me. And, you know, I mean, we kind of touched on this yesterday, but when you look at the West right now and, you know, assuming that the Oilers are a playoff team, you've got 5 or 6 teams that are battling for one spot right now. Because I think we all know that Winnipeg, Dallas, and Colorado we're going to be in. Vancouver, the Kings, and Vegas are going to be in. Edmonton's going to be in. So who is that 8th team? And for teams like Nashville, and Nashville, I guess, is in that wild card spot right now, 2 points ahead of Edmonton, but they played 4 more games.
Yeah.
Home losses to teams outside of the line.
Killer.
Absolutely killer. And if they lose by a point or 2, remember last night, great opportunity for them to kind of keep things going in a positive direction. And instead, you have a stinker like that to a crappy team. It makes you question all sorts of things. You lose 2 incredibly valuable points in the standings, and it does put you back. That would be another interesting cool bet line right now. You know, to make the playoffs bet. For
those
Nashville,
teams racing
Arizona,
outside of the top 7, yeah.
Yeah, Nashville, Arizona. I mean, you could probably include Edmonton in it, but Edmonton would be like
huge
-400
favorite,
or -500 or something like that. But the Kraken, the Flames, Wild, Blues, Coyotes, Predators, those teams, and kind of see what the odds makers at least think of the and, you know, they'll have to crunch like their strength of schedule the rest of the way and all that. But that is an interesting sort of fight. But every time I see these teams go at it or blow a game like that, you just think of how costly that could be. But maybe the Ducks just got a big boost from the hope that Cutter Gauthier, or as they call him in Philly, Quitter Gauthier.
That's a great handle from Flyers fans. Just ridiculous. Anyway, the Flyers -175 favorites tonight against the Habs. Dallas at home -203 against the Minnesota Wild, and then Vegas are +134 dogs tonight on the road in Colorado against Nathan MacKinnon, who's been red hot, and the Colorado Avalanche. If you are watching on YouTube, feel free to chime in the nasty chat. I see Rod Z's got a few of his trends in there as well. Spency 5 cents. He says MacKinnon anytime goal tonight. He has scored in 5 of his last 6 games against the Vegas Golden Knights. Haas, real tiny slate here today, but is there a favorite play on the board for you?
Well, my favorite play is going to be Dallas tonight because any chance I can get to fade the mild, I will do that. That's both from a personal standpoint and a fact that they are in a bad spot. You know, these 2 teams played on Tuesday. And like Dallas kind of just got past. They were starting that Matt Murray guy, not that Matt Murray.
The other Matt Murray, Matthew Murray. Yeah, Matthew Murray.
Yeah, who got a shutout in his, I think, 4th game. And now the series flips back to Dallas. You know, Minnesota, they've got so many guys that are out right now. It's really hard to back them at all. Zuccarello is back, but they've got no Kaprizov. I mean, just the guys that are on the IR right now: Kaprizov, Gustafsson, Brodin, Spurgeon, Foligno, and Johnson are day to day. And of course, Matt Boldy actually had a pretty impressive game. It was Boldy, Eck, and Zuccarello that's on that top line. The Rat, Ryan Hartman, along with Rossi and Johansson, if he's able to go. But they just don't have the guns right now. But as we mentioned, I mean, Dallas has been, they've been pretty good as of late. I mean, they had that win over the Wild, but before that, they lost 3 in a row. Now, I think a few of them were in overtime or shootouts, but a home loss to the Preds, home loss to the Avalanche 5-4. That was an OT. Home loss to the Habs 4-3. And before that, sort of beating up on teams like the Blackhawks. They did have a nice win over Vancouver. But it's just when you think about where the Wild are at right now with all of their injuries, it's kind of hard to, feel too confident about jumping on them for an upset win. I'm trying to look at who is the upset winner tonight. I'll be honest, I don't really like Montreal. I'm kind of in on Philly.
I think my upset winner, if we're looking for an upset winner, I think it'd be the Golden Knights.
Well, me too. But man, they're in a tough spot right now. I mean, let's look at their IR. Because they're, I think, 3-7 in their last 10. Adin Hill has sort of been in and out.
He's listed as unconfirmed for tonight. I saw somebody in the nasty chat said Hill is expected to be in between the pipes tonight. So,
well, you know what? Maybe that's a good time to jump on Vegas right now because Hutton's on the IR, Wild Bill, William Carrier, Thompson's day to day. I mean, if Adin Hill's not able to go, they're going down to their 3rd stringer, Yuri Patera. So I guess what I'm saying is if you want to roll or ride with the Vegas Golden Knights, wait till the starting goaltenders are confirmed because I'm not sure. I don't know much about Yuri Patera, but I'm not sure I'd be backing him as a 3rd stringer going in on a team that's won 3 times in their last 10. Playing in Colorado against one of the best teams in the league to make it happen.
If Adin Hill starts, I like that number a hell of a lot more, obviously.
Yeah, well, and he hasn't really got. I think what we might have to do is kind of dig into a goal prop or two for tonight. The guy that I'm looking at this Minnesota Dallas game, and on that side, I think Boldy had a couple in that game the other day, and then also had that kind of knee-on-knee incident or whatever, that, check from behind thing, I think with Sam Steele. So we'll see whether that gets any more run. But Robertson is -147. The guy I really like on Dallas is Rupee Hintz. We often, we'll touch on him, but you were just +147, +151 for those 2 guys. The other thing is Minnesota's not really getting the goaltending right now. So, looking at that top line, Joe Pavelski's at +180. Matt Duchene +230 tonight. Seguin +240. And if you want, and I think the one thing we do know is that the Wild will be both power play and 5-on-5 be really leaning on that Eriksson Ek line with Zuccarello and with Matt Boldy. And Boldy's hot right now. I mean, if you're looking for a Minnesota guy to touch on, maybe it's the 2-1 on Matt Boldy after the game he had a couple days ago against this same team.
Let's take a look at the chat. Of course, you can text us anytime, 780-218-9999, 780-218-9999. Duck Dad. It was Duck Dad, the guy who hit the 10-player no-goal parlay last night. That hit. That cashed. I didn't get on it.
Oh, it did?
It cashed, though. It cashed. That was Duck Dad, wasn't I? Pretty sure it was Duck Dad. He says, I like playing the shots in the Avs Knights game. You can get plus 200 or better playing it pretty safe with some high-volume guys on both sides tonight. Big Maple Sports Cards is in and says, Pistons Spurs over, Pacers Wizards over, Hawks 76ers easy over. And Rod Z says, a 4-team NBAer, RJ Barrett over 4.5 rebounds, Gilgeous Alexander over 1.5 threes, CJ McCollum 3.5 threes, and Paul George over 3.5 threes tonight as well. If you want to dive in to the association, which I do want to talk about before we go to the NFL, we got to talk about the Raptors, man.
So do I. You know what? Spency 5 Centsy making a nice little dropping a Rod Z-esque trend. Nate the Great, McKinnon has scored in 5 of his last 6 against Vegas. Sounds like cool bet, and the guys that are making the odds don't know that. McKinnon minus 112 to score. A
minus 112. That's a McDavid number. Like McDavid was minus 111, I think, yesterday to score. So, yeah, they're on it. They know what's going on. They know what's happening.
That being said, I don't mind it. Maybe we'll just kind of hold our nose and take the minus money and still get another goal from Nate McKinnon.
We will get to the NFL coming up here a little bit later on. Huss, did you see McAfee today say he's not having Rodgers on for the rest of the NFL season?
Good move, Pat.
Yeah. Do you think that's McAfee's call, or do you think that's ESPN being like, we got to?
It's McAfee's call. It's McAfee's call. It's McAfee's call. He has full creative control over that program. That was part of the deal. And listen,
so you think he just dumped Aaron Rodgers?
He just said the juice wasn't worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
Like everyone's just talking about their show being like some sort of pit for misinformation and stuff. And I mean, it's not like McAfee's a big fucking truther or anything like that. I mean,
I know, but they rode with Rodgers for a long time with him saying stupid stuff. Like,
but you know what? At that time, it was sort of like it wasn't a big deal, and people were watching it. Yeah. Rodgers is a huge, huge voice.
Rodgers also took a shot at an ESPN executive on his hit yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, well, and that probably. But listen, I mean, did we even talk about what Pat said last Friday? Like in the annals of sports business, I have never seen anything like
ESPN
that.
exclusives. Executives are out to get him. Yeah, yeah.
He called Norby Williamson, who's been there for 39 years, a rat on the air, and said that he is, giving fake information to Andrew Marchand of the New York Post to undermine the show. I've never heard anything like that. It's sort of, and listen, I'm fully here for it. It really kind of reminds me of a lot of the Barstool ethos where they'll just say things that are happening. I mean, they pull the curtain back and, Dave will give it to guys that are there and they'll say, screw them, or this is why it's happening. I mean, that was the most, and I mean, I listened to a few, podcasts about sports business. The Ringer's got a great one.
I was going to say, which podcasts are they? Which ones?
The Press Box at the Ringer is my favorite. And I don't often listen to the Sports Business Journal one, but I made a point of doing it yesterday and hearing what they had to say. And then Richard Deitch has a really good one.
He had some tweets about this today too.
And it's sort of unprecedented because, they came there for the big money. It was the huge move. And Pat, covered his ass when it came to it. They have creative control over the program. He'll be making all those decisions. But when I first heard that, I'm like, oh my God, they're gone. I mean, this is going to be done. And then he's out at the national championship doing pictures with his entire crew and one of the two guys that's ahead of Norby on the list. So I give McAfee a lot of credit for what he's built. I think he sort of let this go on too long with Aaron Rodgers, but I think they also felt like they owed Aaron a little bit because when Aaron started coming on with them, it was all of a sudden a big deal.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. Maybe they gave him a little bit of extra leash because of the bump that they would have got when he first started.
So at this point, like for Pat, the juice just isn't worth the squeeze to have Rodgers on. It is now turned into something that's negative for the show. He's got enough issues as it is with the battles that he's fighting within ESPN, and to have him on. The one great thing about this, I'm sure you saw Jimmy Kimmel's monologue.
Oh, I watched Kimmel's 7 minutes. Yeah.
And the funny thing is that, Rodgers said, oh, he's going to come and he'll address it. He'll address this on Tuesday. So Jimmy made a point of going in and firing the first shot. And I'm sorry, that's a nuclear bomb versus a pop gun. If we're talking about Kimmel and his ability to orate things like that against Aaron. So it's fascinating stuff. And we'll see how that moves forward. But I mean, I'm a big McAfee fan. I got incredible respect for what he's created, something unique that's different. It is new. And I think that there's a lot of people that really like it. And I think probably what maybe did this even more is if you look at the guys that are running around, all pro Rodgers and everything on this aren't really the McAfee show fans. They're, these people that are out there on the internet. And I'm not making any political statements here. It's just that there's some people on the far left and on the far right that just gravitate to people that are sort of pumping out some of their information and championing it. But the average McAfee fan is like, guys, I love the show, but I can't do Tuesdays anymore. Like, do we really have to freaking talk about COVID still now? Let's move on. So anyways, we'll pay attention to that. One more thing before NFL. And you mentioned the NBA last night.
My goodness.
Shout out to my guy Darko, because your team, that was fixed. That was as bad of his line. You know what? You say they need to win. Well, just tell us then, and we won't.
That was such a good line, buddy. We played the whole thing today. We broke it down. He provided us with a couple of clips that we're gonna beat the hell out of over the next 2 years on this show. Like, it was amazing. What a rant. An all-timer. And his accent too, everything coming, it's a little different than what you normally feel. But that was the passion that you want from a leader. And I mean, it's a bit of a joke. I mean, 19 free throws in the last 4 minutes of a game? Come on. No, I mean, a good chunk of that was the last 40 seconds when they just kept fouling. But 23-2 in the fourth quarter is just an insane discrepancy, especially down the stretch. And I tweeted it last night. Like, I'm a LeBron guy. I will support wherever he goes. People have known that for the last 20 years. But like they turned that offensive foul into a flagrant. I'm like, that's not a flagrant. Scotty Barnes had the one drive where there was clear contact before Anthony Davis blocked him. The one foul against Reeves. And I haven't seen a 2-minute. Have they given out the final 2-minute report on this game yet? I haven't seen that pop up yet. I mean, I should probably be out there by now. But, I mean, they got hosed hard last night, and they still kept it a game, which was very impressive. And the officials last night ruined what would have been an amazing finish to that game, even without the fouls. Like, it would have been a great finish to that ball game, and the officials just completely pissed it away, man.
Okay, I didn't see any of them. Were the Raptors up? Were the Raptors way up, and this just allowed the Lakers to get back
the
Raptors,
into the game? The Lakers had led by 8 at one point. The Raptors had led by 8 at one point. It was kind of like a 3-4 point game most of the way, right? So I don't think it was the officiating in the fourth quarter that let the Lakers get back into the game, but the officiating in the fourth quarter held the Raptors back from, maybe getting the lead late in that game, which, yeah, they got hosed. I love Darko coming out and doing that though, man. Like, if you were not, if you're a Nick Nurse guy and you're like, oh, we'll have to see, I don't know how many people Darko would have won over last night with his rant. I mean, it was legendary stuff.
Yeah, it's as I said, that one will be worth the money. We'll remember it for a long time. I think he probably galvanized a lot of support amongst Raptor fans and a good portion of the NBA that does not bow down at the altar of LeBron James and the LA Lakers.
Now let me just stop for a second on LeBron. Anthony Davis took whatever it was, 20-some free throws last night. I tweeted it out yesterday. LeBron James has like the fourth most shots from inside the paint this year and is getting to the free throw line less than he ever has in his entire career. LeBron is not this guy who's always getting to the line. Last night, Anthony Davis was. But did you see LeBron's comments after the game?
Yeah.
McAllister, they were fouling and we weren't. I was like, oh man, that's not going to help the conversation right now. That was pretty good. That was really good.
Do you have do you have your Twitter open?
I do.
On
I
your
do.
Computer?
Yeah, I do.
Check your DMs.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna need a moment here just to gather my thoughts.
Whoa.
I wish we had the ability to put this up on the screen right now.
Okay, wait a sec here. So the CFL says the sky's the limit for Brady Oliveira in 2024, but where? Brady Oliveira quote tweeted, so where will I end up? Thinking face, money sign. He's staying in Winnipeg, man. Come on. Like this has to be Brady Oliveira being like, where am I going to end up? He's going to be in Winnipeg.
Well, Kyle Walters did a conference call yesterday and said that Stanley Bryant wants to return. And right now they're working and trying to figure out what's happening with Dalton Schoen and Brady Oliveira, and they need clarity on those. But they do need a resolution, because if they're not going to bring those guys, they've got to go a different direction, and they don't want to be left with nothing. So this seems like it wasn't like he said that. He obviously said that they want him back, but this is a very public floating out there that Brady's not sitting there going, all I want to do is stay in Winnipeg and take the money. He's looking for the back. I guess there's dogs he can rescue in any CFL market right now.
Yeah, which he loves to do. I mean,
that would be something. That would be a big blow to the Bombers if Brady Oliveira left. I will say this.
Is Johnny Augustine under contract?
I believe.
I know he's not Brady, but he averages the same yards per carry, different situations and stuff. But still, yeah. I mean, man, I just can't imagine Brady Oliveira, the local kid, suiting up for any other team. I couldn't even pick a team. He's supposed to be in Bomber Blue. There's no way. There's no way.
I still think that this gets done. I will go on the record saying I would be shocked if he is not a Bomber next year. However, this is a very interesting and very public way to say that it is not done, and might be time for the Bombers, for Wade and Kyle to open up the purse strings a little bit and get him signed. Well, that's certainly going to be an interesting topic today to get to on WST.
Let me ask you this. If you can only afford to pay Brady Oliveira or Dalton Schoen, it's Oliveira, isn't it? You still got Kenny Lawler. You can, is Bailey back?
Bailey,
is he a free agent?
Bailey signed a 1-year deal on the cheap last year. Okay, and he's going to be.
I don't know. I mean, it kind of believes, I think Derek Taylor would say, running backs, don't worry about it, you'll find one. Yeah. So maybe the answer would be Schoen, but you already got Kenny Lawler. I mean, that's like an insane 1-2 punch, but Brady Oliveira is different, man. Look what he did this year. He should have been the most outstanding player in the league.
So is Schoen. I mean,
Well, Schoen's been a cheat code since the moment he stepped into the league. So
and the connection he has with Collaros is so great. I'll say this: it's that's really close to me. Like, there's not a clear, it's not automatically Brady. It probably is Brady, with the way that the Bombers have set their offense up, kind of leading behind that old line. But there's some different ways you can win football games right now. So we will see. Hey, just before I got to run, let's look at these lines right now. You mentioned I'm surprised about this line movement in the Rams Lions game.
Yeah, exactly. I'm glad we had a chance to get to this. Me too. I mean, you looked at it today. So have we seen movement one way or the other in every single game now? What was the Packers-Cowboys line when the week started? It was 7.5, wasn't it?
Packers hasn't moved
Okay,
at
that
all.
one hasn't moved.
It is-
All of the other lines have moved.
Yeah. Yeah, right now Cleveland's at 2.5. So obviously a little bit of money's come in on the Texans. The Chiefs are at 4. And by the way, this could potentially be one of the coldest playoff games of all time on Saturday. I'm gonna be bundled up. It might be tough to do many social media posts from the game because my phone might be frozen.
I want to see frozen Huss face on social media. We got to get it, at least one.
Or tucked underneath 5 layers of clothing. But I understand why this game's going towards Kansas City. I mean, the more I think about it, maybe it's just because I'm a Chiefs fan and I'm going to the game. But I think the Dolphins are absolutely screwed. Like the fact, and if this was a regular game, regular weather, I'd say either team can win. You're going to tell me the Miami Dolphins with a defense that's really banged up, Jaden Waddle that's banged up, Mostert banged up, are going to come in to be. And here's another thing why the Chiefs, to be honest, as bad as their offenses looked at times, do not overlook their defense. And we know how important defense is in the playoffs, especially, I mean, listen, their road to the Super Bowl, if it is going to be in a freezing cold Arrowhead, in all likelihood, probably a very cold game in Buffalo, and then on the way to, and then Baltimore as well. And we know what Mahomes has done against both Allen and Lamar Jackson in the playoffs before. While I look at what the Chiefs to win the AFC is right now, that's 5-1. I think we may need to add to that a little bit, but not surprised that game's gone to 4. Buffalo's still 9.5 over the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's not changing. And you know, at 3 right now, 3 in the Philly game. I don't think that's going back towards Philly. As I say, I doubt it gets to 2.5.
I said yesterday, I thought it would stay right where it was now. I think that kind of stays at 3. Yeah.
It's probably at the right.
What do you think about the Rams then moving to 3.5 right now? I thought that number was going to stay at 3 for most of the week too.
You know, and again, it's Detroit at plus money at 3.5. But what it tells me is that at 3, they got a ton of money coming in on Detroit. I mean, people are there on Detroit because, I mean, I don't see a consensus that the Lions are running away with this one. But what is really interesting, and usually when you can go in, you can get it. Oh, if it's not at 3.5, it's at 3. 3 is not available anymore. I mean, we're going from 3 to 1.5. I mean, there's a gap right there. If you want to take it -4, -5, -6, you can do all that. Detroit -1.5 is -154. And again, they're -167 on the money line. Like, I like their chances to win this game, but I'll be honest, covering 3.5 against a really good Rams team, to me is a bit much. I think if anything, I take them on the money line and maybe tuck them in with a few parlays to make.
That'll be back to 3 by kickoff, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I would.
Right, that
think,
3.5 should get money in on the Rams. I would probably try to even sell.
I'm surprised though that it's at 3.5 right now, and I'm really surprised that you can't still bet 3 just at maybe a less advantageous number. Well, that's something that you do not see. You do not see very often. And just an update on the script parlay, plus 197 right now. Cleveland, Chiefs, Bills, all to win. And again, I don't know whether the guys want to put that in the exclusives. That might be a little bit much, just with 3 favorites to cover on the money line to boost it at all. But basically, you're looking at just about plus 200 right now for the script to go as planned. Cleveland, Joe Flacco at Baltimore, Chiefs and Bills in the divisional playoff round.
One more quick NFL note. If you want to bet on where Bill Belichick will be next year, that is posted now. If you go to NFL and then click on 2024 NFL offseason specials, Falcons plus 250, Chargers 4-1, Pats 4-1, Commanders 5-1, not a coach or GM of any team, 6-1. You can also get the field outside of all the other options they have up there. So, yeah, interesting one if you want to hop in on that.
Atlanta.
Yeah.
I guess the reason for that is that Arthur Blank is apparently, he's not getting any younger. He feels like he's got all these good offensive weapons. He's not looking at any sort of a rebuild. He wants it, and he wants it now, ASAP. And he's got $1 gajillion, so certainly he can pay the man what he probably is worth. I'd love to see the guys add Harbaugh into this.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be a Harbaugh category that'll pop up here too.
And I know the Bears have just said that Eberflus is coming back. Is there anybody that could enter the chat that might change that decision? Because you know how this goes.
Yeah.
They're going to give him another year. They're going to go draft Caleb Williams, and then he's going to get fired at the end of next year, and they'll be starting over. So
that is how it goes. Huss, what's coming up on Winnipeg Sports Talk, buddy?
Well, we're definitely going to be talking about this Brady Oliveira tweet and seeing what people have to say about that. Murat Atesh is going to join us. Just 2 hours of fun talking about life at the top of the NHL, basically. I mean, that's what we do.
You guys
now.
are just you're Will Ferrell in Wedding Crashers when they go and see him, and he's just sitting in his chair, just being like, "You got to get the nunchucks around the neck there, Huss. Live your best life, buddy. Live your best life."
Good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. Hey, just quickly, we don't have a lot of time, and we will really get into golf more after the Super Bowl.
For sure.
Sony Open is on right now. It gets going tomorrow if you want to get your bets in. Favorites for the tournament is Matty Fitz and Ludwig Aberg. I'll be betting a lot of Aberg this year. I'm not sure I'm betting him at 16-1 as a co-favorite. Just a couple small sprinkles for this event. Our buddy Sahith Theegala was one off in the Century last week, so he's coming off a great week. Again, I'd love to see a better number than 28-1, but I'll have a little sprinkle on Sahith. And if you want to go down a little further past, say, 40-1 or so, I do see our guy Adam Hadwin at 50-1. And I'll have to look a little bit more into this, but it does seem very strange. Hideki Matsuyama at 50-1 when you look at some of the other numbers that are far, far less. I do see Denny McCarthy at 33, which is an interesting number. And my guy, Benny On was right there last week. I think he finished 3 off or 2 off. He's at 33. But Hideki at 50-1, I almost can't help myself from at least putting a little sprinkle down on a guy that's won a green jacket and is far more accomplished than most of the guys ahead of him. But I'm pulling for Sahith at 20.
You know what? Wednesdays, we could probably start fitting in golf on a regular basis. 20 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll look into that moving forward here as the games in the NFL are going to start dwindling off here.
And I should just see right now is, the Greggy Golf special has not started yet. But as soon as Pat starts doing those Greggy Golf specials, we'll make sure to either hit it ourselves or get him in on the Wednesday.
All right, Hush, you get off to Winnipeg Sports Talk. I am going to take a whip through some exclusives that are posted over here at Coolbet before we wrap up the lock shop today. We'll talk to you tomorrow, buddy.
Beauty. Take it easy. See you later, chatters.
There you go. That is Huss, Winnipeg Sports Talk, coming up over on the Winnipeg Sports Talk feed. As for the exclusives tonight, let's take a quick wrap on that. They've got a few exclusives posted over there. There is an Edmonton Sports Talk parlay. They took our 2 NBA picks today and put them together, gave us a little bit of a boost at plus 335. Golden State Warriors to win and the Raptors plus 10.5. That was at 10. You got to have a half number in these exclusives, so they gave us the extra half point there. So I really like that one. Warriors to win. That was from Mr. Lean earlier today on the Nielsen Show, and then plus 10.5 for the Raptors tonight. Second half of back-to-back, but no travel, obviously. And the Raptors looked good last night, and they'll be fired up. So to keep it within double digits, I don't know. I loved them yesterday at plus 5, as I said, right here in this final segment on the Lock Shop, and I think I like them at 10 again as well. By the way, Kawhi Leonard signing an extension. I didn't see the number. I just saw the Clippers do. Anybody got the? Does anybody have the term on that one? Let me check out Shams' Twitter account here. Kawhi, 3 years, 152. Massive, fully guaranteed, long-term commitment in Los Angeles. I'm assuming his uncle is fine with that one. As for the exclusives tonight, available over at CoolBet. If you go to CoolBet.com, click on exclusives. At the top of that popular column, here's what they've got tonight in the National Hockey League. Chalk it up. Philadelphia Flyers, Dallas Stars, Colorado Avalanche, all to win, plus 315. I like that, actually. I'm probably going to ride on that one. We were saying earlier, which game do we really like as an upset tonight? I mean, if Aiden Hill's playing, maybe Vegas, but I think you have to like these other 3 teams tonight. So plus 315 for the 3 chalk favorites to win. The finishers, Rupe Hintz, Mikko Rantanen, both to score tonight, plus 430. Points from the point, that's a regular option. Michael Matheson, Brock Faber, Cale Makar, all to record 1+ points, plus 525. Shots. Pavelski, Cam Atkinson, Cale Makar, all to record 3+ shots, sitting at plus 575. And the Stars and Stripes, Cole Caulfield and Jack Eichel, both to score, plus 640 tonight, which is a pretty good value on those 2 guys. But if you want to ride with any of those, just go to the exclusives tab. Good luck, everybody, tonight. Let us know what you cash. Join us tomorrow. Busier NHL slate. We'll get into that, obviously. And Huss is right. I mean, we spent a lot of time pre-EST Lock Shop betting golf throughout the spring and the summer, and we'll start diving into that a little bit heavier again next Wednesday as well. That's going to do it for the Lock Shop today. Good luck tonight, and we will talk to you tomorrow. The oil stream coming up here on Edmonton Sports Talk with myself and Tommy Gazzola. Don't go anywhere.
Zach, come here, please.
Mike's still on.